Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by the title of today's video, we will be talking about the growing potential, at this point, essentially a likelihood for a very large winter storm. Now, this thing will be different from the winter storms that I've seen for the past, I would say, month. The main reason is this one is pretty much occurring in mid-February. The Gulf of Mexico is open. There will be strong winds blowing lots of moisture from there, and we have a good source of energy. So if you put two and two together, you will know that this one does have a pretty powerful threat for not only flooding, rain, but also severe weather. In addition to the normal threats of ice and snow that we've been dealing with pretty much every other storm that's been occurring thus far this winter. And I don't want to say that this is going to be a massive severe weather outbreak. There's no signs of that just quite yet, but there definitely are some signs of concern for the severe weather side of this thing, the flooding side of this thing, the snowy side. This thing's going to be an impactful system. And definitely, possibly one of the more impactful ones thus far this season. I'll be going over that, giving you my early thoughts. The National Weather Service has given out their kind of preliminary, outlooks on this system, and I'll be kind of going over that as well. Again, I'm a hobbyist, a weather enthusiast. I'm not a professional meteorologist. Obviously, for official weather info, if you live in the United States, go to the National Weather Service, weather.gov. By far the best weather source that there is available. And I do want to say that if you live in Canada, which this system will probably affect you guys as well with either ice, whatever the system may bring, go to Environment Canada, as that is your best source for weather, pretty much equivalent to the National Weather Service. Okay, let's start talking about this. I do want to say, if you guys are new to this channel, check out the video. Obviously, watch the whole entire thing, or as much as you want. And if you do enjoy this content, subscribe, like, it helps out a lot. I say this at the beginning because I always forget at the end. So if you have any questions, also leave them down below. Without any further ado, let's get on with the actual content that I want to talk about. And this video may be a bit long. I don't know at this current point how long it will be, but hopefully it won't be too long. But again, I'm not guaranteeing that because we have just a lot of stuff to talk about. Okay, first off, there are a few things that are already issued with this storm. Notice that we do have hydrologic issues for much of Indiana, Ohio, portions of Ohio, extreme northwestern Ohio, extreme southern Michigan. Really just the bottom line of the southwest counties, and then notice portions of northeastern Illinois. So that is basically for the fact that this area has been frozen. It's cold, and now you could see a lot of rain, so there could be some flooding issues. And again, that's just one of the many threats that could be facing this specific region. To the south, the severe weather, nothing yet issued, right? This is just fire warnings. Red flag warnings. Out ahead of this system, I'll show you in just a minute, there will be extreme winds coming in from the south and west. Of course, with a relatively warm air, sunny skies, and extreme winds, any brush fires could spread really quickly, and that's why they issued those warnings. And then again, that is, I'm assuming, for today, tomorrow, and through Wednesday, when the winds are going to be the strongest. I believe it is not for the current time. Yeah, you can see starting Tuesday and probably going into Wednesday as well. But really Tuesday will be the big weather threats for those locations. So in terms of fire, okay, so that is just, I wanted to show you, what is currently advised, and this is again kind of the more immediate map. Any warnings or advisories are obviously indicating of a system. For now, it's still a bit too far out for that, and let me tell you, this system definitely has some curveballs that it could throw. And let me show you by taking a look at some of these weather models. So first off, notice that we have a very calm pattern. We haven't had a lot of activity, and that's why I haven't been as active on his channel. The past, I guess, the early portions of February, there really just wasn't any big storms or anything to go home about. And notice that this is all about to change. So this is now Tuesday afternoon. So through tomorrow, really nothing. If you live across the West, California, Nevada, you will get a bit of snow. And right now, actually, as we're talking, this little piece of energy that is going to be helping kind of construct this whole system and intensify it to the levels of the intensity that it will achieve is this little system right there. And that is moving into the northwest right now as we speak, dropping a bit of rain and snow across lower and higher elevations respectively. Notice that as I push this forward, what we do see is a high pressure kind of diving towards the south and just really parked just south of New England. And what this does by itself, this is going to bring very nice weather. It's not going to be anything, sorry, not going to be anything stormy. It will be a bit chilly, as you can see those lines over there, while it's warming up pretty drastically towards the south and west. And that is because we have kind of two areas of low pressure that are pretty weak, but they're nonetheless spinning the winds counterclockwise, like all low pressures do in the northern hemisphere. And we could figure out in which way these winds are flowing. We could tell that they're strong because they're tightly packed, these lines right here, but we don't know really what direction, right? But low pressures, they spin counterclockwise, so those winds in relevance to this low pressure are going towards the north and east. This high pressure, which is really the driving force of a lot of this, is it's a very strong high pressure. That is a very strong high pressure. And what that is doing is, see all these massive, look how massive that wind field is, all the way into the southern New Mexico area. It's driving these winds towards the north and east as well, and basically these winds are converging, so it is almost like an extreme alley of very strong winds pumping loads of moisture very, very quickly, because today, sorry about that, today relatively we haven't had a lot of activity yet, and really it's been pretty cold across much of the United States. And notice that these lines today are pretty disorganized. The flow is kind of from the south and east, which isn't really optimal for the general warming and pumping of moisture into the atmosphere. But really this all changes tomorrow, and especially right before the system's occurrence into Wednesday. We see this just fully. We see these little lines of almost precipitation kind of just getting dragged up here, and all they need is a little spark, a little piece of energy to bring it all and tie it all together. And that's exactly what happens Wednesday afternoon. We finally have the system that's been bringing some snow to the northwest, combines with another push of energy from Montana, gives it a little nudge, and we see snow breakouts across Wyoming, Montana, right to Utah, Colorado. Nothing really big for those areas. It will definitely be some snow, but the main story takes place across the Midwest. Notice, not only do we have this low pressure and this high pressure, which is very, very strong, just really impressive, an impressive storm, guys. Truly an impressive system, or at least this high pressure, and that helps this system be way more impressive than it normally would. But we also have a pretty good high pressure towards the north. Now, what this means is essentially, again, high pressure, they spin counterclockwise, so the winds from this one are going like this. And that is driving a lot of cold air and a very stubborn kind of resistance to this precipitation that would normally be pushed towards the north. But look, these two winds converge. Notice how we have very strong winds to the south and east, and right there across Kansas. You see how they take that L shape right there, those little lines? I don't know if you could see that. They go up and then they hook towards the west. It's because these two air masses are just absolutely fighting it out. This one's trying to go to the south, this one's trying to go to the north. So what that does is this precip, instead of, if there wasn't resistance to the north, it would kind of just glide up towards the north, and the snowy side would probably be into North Dakota, South Dakota. Instead, we just see this precip start to get maximized at very intense rates. Notice that through 6 p.m. through midnight, we see a explosion of precipitation, essentially. We do see a little bit of snow where that cold air does manage to kind of drive in. And look, we see a lot of rain already developing along this. This is why those hydrologic outlooks are already issued by the National Weather Service. There's pretty good confidence in a setup like this occurring. All models pretty much agree on this. This is where things start taking a turn for more uncertainty. Notice that the rain continues to intensify. You can see those little darker greens, even those yellow colors appearing across Indiana, Illinois. We start seeing ice up here because of the cold air that is sliding underneath the warm air, producing quite a bit of freezing rain and ice, which, let me tell you, normally for an event like this, you wouldn't expect to see this much of freezing rain and ice, but in this case, it does look a bit more pronounced than, I guess, normal, because of, again, these two dueling air masses, and cold air is heavier than warmer air, so it sinks below it, and of course, it causes that, that ice threat, which is not going to be a massive one, but it definitely still poses a danger, as any ice is dangerous, and up to 0.2 of an inch, if not more, could fall across areas where you see that pink color lined up. Now, again, the exact positioning of this is the main question, right? This is where things really start being disagreed on. So this is 6 a.m. Thursday. Again, decently far out, around 2.5 days, but not terribly far out. It's this week, so if you're gonna be impacted by the snow and ice where it is currently on this map, you're probably gonna get some. It's a matter of how much you should start, I guess, taking precautions for that. This should not be anything that's super, I guess, dangerous or super devastating, I should say, because it will be dangerous, but not devastating. But it's always good to take. It's always good to be safe than sorry. And notice that some of this snow, according to the GFS, extends way back into Oklahoma, Kansas, into Kansas City. And look, we see that ice. You can see that ice line, which is decently defined right there across Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, into early Thursday. It does move, but not that much. And you can see that some areas could be stuck under this freezing rain threat for a good 6, even more hours of time, and that could and these rates of freezing rain and sleet will be very heavy, as you can see with this rainfall to the south. And this is where the severe weather threat starts acting up, right? Where we could see a very nasty event occurring on Wednesday across kind of more of the deep south, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and into Louisiana, Texas, maybe, and then it shifts towards the east on Thursday. But look what we start seeing. A lot of that heavy rain, where, by the way, where this blue is right here, across northern Missouri and Iowa and Illinois, southeastern Iowa, northwestern Illinois, at noon Thursday, this will be falling on top of areas that have seen over potentially 2 inches of rain. So this thing will be a mess, will be a slop. And the National Weather Service in their weather forecast discussion that I was reading today described it as potentially just pouring snow. These rates of snow would be prolific, and within the 6 hours you could get 6 inches. It would be definitely an inch, if not 2 inches of snow per hour, if a scenario like this were to occur, which the GFS has been stubborn consistent thus far. Notice that this severe weather threat does extend into Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, potentially Georgia, all the way into Thursday afternoon, right? And where you see, you can see that now it's extending into more of central Illinois, that heavy snow, into northern Indiana, and it's kind of abating from Missouri and Iowa. And you can see that snow really quickly gets out of there once the system moves off. There's quite a bit of dry air behind this, and it kind of really, I guess, spooks it out of there. And notice that the snow does extend into Canada. So cities like Toronto, you end up seeing a lot of rain at first, followed by some ice, and then a brief transition to some snow. Now, it probably shouldn't be significant enough to pick up a lot of snow, because you can see, again, the dry air really dries that snow pretty quickly. And we see that rain move towards the northeast, and again, the snowy side of that is probably going to be limited. But you can see that it definitely is a powerhouse of moisture and snow and sleet, and then it moves out by late Friday. Do notice that there's a nasty clipper that could be moving through the Great Lakes and southern Canada right there, or right after this system. Again, nothing in comparison in terms of precip amounts, but still high winds and a decent amount of snow. So let's take a look at the snowfall first. Again, this is just one model, by the way. This is just the GFS, and its snowfall footprint is rather impressive. In fact, I would say too impressive. I do think that if a scenario like the GFS were to occur, we could see, a good area seeing a foot plus in kind of the bullseye, but I don't think up to 16, 18 inches is plausible. And that's assuming, especially since it's not agreed upon with the models. If all models were showing a scenario like this, we could get more into the specific snowfalls. But at this point, it puts a lot of cities in a crosshair of very heavy snow, but it's even more impactful because of, again, the rainy side. You can see, obviously, snow and rain combined. It could be over 2 inches, 3 inches of liquid across some of these areas. Definitely high amounts across the south where the thunderstorms do occur. They show these models, GFS, are bad at forecasting the severe weather or just thunderstorms. So they show just, a quarter of an inch to an inch. But don't get me wrong, if you see a few thunderstorms here over on top of each other, you could quickly pick up 4, 5, 6, inches of rain very easily. So that's what the GFS show. Now, I wish this would be, consistent with all models. Not necessarily because I want it to occur, just for the simplicity of kind of giving out a forecast that's more certain, that could later lead to less confusion. It's not the case, unfortunately. We could see a scenario like the Canadian, which, by the way, again, a lot of the setup is still the same. We have a high pressure that's further towards the north. Notice, so that may not seem like it does a big difference, and it essentially doesn't, because a lot of this is still very pronounced flow to the north and east. The warm, moist air still gets pumped in, but you'll notice a few things that are different. So, look, we do see that precip develop across Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, and it explodes in intensity, very similar to what the GFS shows. So, thus far, nothing too different, though it is a bit further towards the south. And this is, again, midnight Thursday. Do note that by 6 a.m. in the morning, we have very, very heavy snow across much of Missouri, Illinois. Very heavy rain across Missouri, Illinois, Oklahoma. We do have some heavy snow across Oklahoma and Kansas. And this is different from the GFS because not only is the system further towards the south, right? You could see that that system isn't affecting Iowa or southern Iowa and northern Illinois. It's affecting more of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Still, where the rainy side is occurring, there is a lot of thunderstorm activity. And again, the severe weather threat pretty much stays constant, unfortunately, with whatever scenario we look at. And notice that a scenario like this would mean more snow for, say, Toronto, maybe Cleveland, as that transition to snow is a bit quicker and it lasts for a longer period of time, that snow, once it does begin. But then you could see it too, by the time it's 6 p.m. Friday, it's out of there, regardless of whatever scenario you look at. Now, there are some key differences. Okay, while it does show a good area of snow for Missouri, it's a lot more progressive. Okay, so essentially, the snow, let me just show you the snowfall amounts. We see we do see some heavy snow, and actually this is an increase from yesterday, but it's still a very more localized area. It is a bit more long in terms of kind of its length of heavy snow, but again, it's a lot more narrow compared to what the GFS showed, with just for comparison, is a lot more, I guess, broad, and you can see it does extend into Canada, while this one is a lot more localized. Regardless, an impactful snowstorm and a severe weather side would be as well very powerful. So still a very potent system, just maybe not as impressive as what the GFS shows. And you can see that what I mean by more progressive is that we see this system, it's faster. It moves off at a similar direction, just a bit quicker. The high pressure from the north keeps it I guess the system evolves in such a degree where it kind of squeezes between these two and doesn't get stuck between their toughest of their battle, and it kind of just gets out of there between the high pressure and the strong winds from the south, and it zooms off before anything really serious happens, which the GFS kind of shows the serious, which would involve a much snowier event. Total snowfall I already showed you. Wanted to show you total rainfall, which again, where it does snow and rain, what's not, you can see that there's also very heavy rain here, and some flooding issues are possible, if not likely, and a severe weather would also be very, very significant. So that is definitely something, with Canadian, even if it does come true, which again, it's hard to tell which one's more accurate at this point. Even if it does come true, it's still a very powerful and potent scenario that definitely still warrants a pretty heavy warning on it. And I want to show you one more model, actually, yeah, one more for now, and then I'll show you a few ensembles, and I'll kind of voice my opinions on which one I think is more accurate. Okay, but again, that will just be my opinion. And notice that the European, again, very similar setup, extreme winds from the south and west, very strong winds from the north. What we do see is a lot of rain develop, again, very, very heavy. We already see that it's a bit further towards the south, however, so more of what the Canadian shows. We do have some snow, regardless of which scenario we look at. You can see this one does into Kansas, Missouri, Illinois. Notice there is some snow. It is heavy at times, but it's more progressive, again, like the Canadian. You can see that a lot of the rain towards the south is very pronounced. That severe weather is definitely going to be a concern, regardless of, again, which model we look at. And some areas, like, say, look at Ohio, could be stuck in the rainfall for a good almost 12 to 24 hours. And this won't be some light rain. This will be moderate to heavy rain. So some flooding is definitely an issue, especially if the grounds are frozen and the water can't percolate through the soil as easily. Now, notice that this does have a snowy side, but again, it's much more progressive, it's quicker, and it squeezes out of here a bit sooner than, a bit weaker and a bit quicker than what the other model shows, the GFS and Canadian. I think it's the weakest out of all in terms of snowfall, and I want to see if that is correct, because the total snowfall did not look impressive with that system, at least on the simulation. Yeah, you can see right there, we do have a swath of maybe 8, in some areas a bit higher amounts of snow, which again, I say weaker, but just to show you, compared to the GFS, it is quite a bit weaker. The GFS, you can see there's a lot of these purples right here. Again, some of these are probably a bit overblown. That's not the latest. This is the latest GFS model, and you can see it's still a heavier event, and even the Canadian has I do think, a heavier snowfall event with its latest model run. You can see, some darker colors there, potentially showing a foot, which again is going to be hard to see if that actually does occur. But yeah, you can see the European definitely the weakest, but it's still an impressive system swath further towards the south. And in terms of its rainfall, it's still very, very impressive. Total quantitative precipitation forecast, you can see very good swaths of rain. And over here, it's more scattered, indicative of a severe weather threat potentially, or just more thunderstorms developing. So those are the main three models. So you can see, let me do a quick little, or I guess, quick little recap here. So the GFS is the strongest scenario out of all of them, and that doesn't just mean for the snow side of it, just as well as the severe weather side and the intensity of the system, and it's also its relative duration. And notice that, and the Canadian and the European model are definitely the weaker scenarios. They're much more progressive, and they kick the system out of here a bit sooner, which limits the snow, especially with the model like the European, and it also limits the severe weather side of this slightly, not too significantly, as again, the severe weather side, as you saw, was rather impactful and potent with all the scenarios. Now, the question is, which one is more accurate, right? The GFS side or the European and Canadian, which both of those do have their relative difference, but they're much more similar together than any of them to the GFS. It's hard to tell, and that's kind of an answer that's pretty easy to give. But I do think, if I were to take a guess, if I was a gambling man right now and I were to take a guess as to how this will unfold, I would say it's more likely to be like the similar to what the GFS is showing. And let me show you why. Let me show you why I think so. Let's take a look at the European ensembles. So these are 51 models that are in one given image, show all of their snowfall overlapped. So this is great at looking at what the trend is of the family. And you can see yesterday, this is what they showed. This is the model run I was showing you yesterday. And you could see that there was a good swath of snow. It was pretty wide because there was a lot of lack of confidence, if you will, regarding this situation. Right? But as we got closer in time, so now this is yesterday at midnight, you could see that snow swath got a bit smaller, meaning it stayed in intensity, just got a bit smaller, meaning that we got a bit of a higher kind of confidence in where this may occur. And then today at noon, this is what it looked like. So you can see that the intensity grew. So again, the Europeans are also showing quite a bit of snow with the European models. And the ensemble average is higher, further towards the north with this snow swath than the European model by itself, which is a part of this ensemble, but it's just really kind of, I guess, just one of the many models. And notice that this one's snowfall footprint, let me just pull it up. I already showed you it, but I just want to remind you. It looked like this, and this is what the ensembles show as a whole. Here you can see it's a bit further towards the north. Now, let me show you what the latest European model is. You think, didn't I just show you the latest one? Yes, the 12Z that goes out to 240 hours. But I do have the ability to show you one that goes out to 90 hours. It comes out in the evening. And by the way, this is what this individual model, again, showed. You can see right there at noon today. That's the one I showed you right here. But let's take a look at the one that came out today at around 6 p.m. And you can see it is a similar track. It is a higher intensity snow, and it's a tad further towards the north. And it's a bit hard to see because I can't. Right there, you saw that there was a decent shift right there towards the north, and you can see that includes areas of northwestern Indiana with the heaviest snow, southern Michigan, southwestern Michigan, into portions of central Missouri. And you can see with the noon one, it was more of it was just south of those areas, and you can see it was more into southeastern Michigan. So again, there's been a slight trend towards the north. Now versus the GFS, right? So the European, by the way, Europeans, just to recap, have been rather consistent, but further towards the north than what the European by itself shows. And also they have been trending slightly towards the north with every model run. Now, the GEFS members, so these are from the GFS family, so every model kind of has its ensemble, or at least the ones I showed you, and this is what they show currently. So you can see it's a lot more aggressive with that snow, it's a lot more widespread, and it's a bit further towards the north. Now, let me show you, go back to, say, yesterday at 00Z, so this was yesterday at midnight, or today at midnight, so quite a bit of time ago, 17 hours ago. You could see it was pretty consistent, a lot less changing than what the European ensembles have been doing. And that is key. If something is more consistent, that means that it's probably has a better handle of it. And I said that yesterday, but I wasn't too sure yet because the models haven't, I guess, I kind of wanted to give them one more day, and I did. And they've been more consistent, the GFS, with each model run, almost the same exact thing. And you can see with each one, there's also increased those snowfall amounts. There's more pinks now, which means heavier amounts. They've been more focused on that track. And again, it's looking more and more likely for a potential kind of GFS more scenario. And you can see that this isn't just one model. These are all of them kind of combined into one. Again, the one thing, the several things that convinces me towards this are, just a brief recap here, are is the consistency of it. It's been more consistent than a European. The other thing is that the European and a Canadian have been trending slightly towards the north and towards where the GFS is. And also the fact that, again, the Ensemble just has a greater agreement as a whole compared to the European ones. So it's tough to tell at this point, right? But I do have a slight leaning towards the GFS. We've heard to show you the National Weather Service 5-day snowfall forecast. So they give these up to 72 hours. The National Weather Service, it's in kind of a modeled format. And look, this is what they think will happen just through, this is Thursday afternoon. So obviously they're more conservative with the snowfall amounts because it's still far out and uncertainty is high. But it's definitely a scenario that's more towards the north and not towards the south, like with the Canadian or European. So this, gives me a kind of insight that the National Weather Service is also slightly leaning towards the GFS. And that would make sense as they have been more consistent. And you can see this is what they showed a couple of hours ago. It was very little snow. But in the last few hours, they've kind of upgraded their snowfall forecast. So we'll have to see, guys. Regardless, impactful situation, impactful storm. And I've really just gone over the snowy side, and I realized that this is already at 26 minutes, this video. But notice that the severe weather is not going to be occurring into Tuesday. So if you live across the south and you're worried about the severe weather, Tuesday you're still fine. But Wednesday is when this thing is going to start acting up. For now, this is where the bullseye is. You can see it includes Oklahoma City, Fort Worth, Dallas, so large cities. But again, it's just a slight for now, which I say just, it's still a decent threat of severe weather, and it's still 2 days out. So I do think that this will be increased to enhanced by the time it actually occurs. And then you can see on Thursday, they already have a severe right there. And I do think that this day will be a bit more risky. And I think that there could be a enhanced, at least potentially a moderate. But again, we'll have to see exactly which scenario does play out and then discuss the severe weather about that. But for now, that is basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.